the NDA problem. Should public officials ever sign secret agreements involving your community?
Vlogging pod starts like a conversation. Cup of coffee with no destination. Just voices trying to understand what's happening across this land. From your stories told to the pages turned. Every question, every word, supported by SheShareStudios.net.
Hello, and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. As many of you may know, if you've listened to the podcast, I've talked more and more lately about data centers, especially since they started affecting communities closer to my own home. But one of the few things we discovered while doing deeper dives into these projects is something many people may not even realize. Would it surprise you, Laura, since you're with me, learn that elected officials who represent your community can legally sign NDAs, also known as non-disclosure agreements, during negotiations involving major community projects. And an NDA, for anyone who doesn't know, is a legal agreement that restricts what information someone can publicly share in these cases. It can mean negotiations involving land deals, utility agreements, tax incentives, development projects, and may happen before the public fully know what is being planned for their own communities. So what would you think if you hear about that, Laura?
That there is some shady stuff going on, because why would you need that unless you're doing... let me say, I know in some instances one is needed, but if it's a city official, aren't they like working for us, for the people, the community? So why would they need one? I feel like that is like a shady, some shady shit.
Yeah, right. It is some shady stuff. Now, like you just basically said, the controversy surrounding these agreements is not just in Ohio, where I live, but also where you and yourself live in Arizona, because both states are seeing rapid expansion involving technology, infrastructure, and large-scale development projects. So when we go into now, legally speaking, NDAs themselves are usually not illegal, which that shocks the heck out of me, I'll be honest with you. Public officials, right? Yeah. Public officials can sign them under certain circumstances, especially during economic development negotiation. Companies often argue that confidentiality is necessary to prevent land speculation, project trade secrets, avoid competitors interfering, keep negotiations stable while deals are being finalized. But critics, and by the way, I happen to be one of them, would argue, hold on a second, click that, would argue very differently. I would argue, and I'm sure many others, maybe even yourself, Laura, that when elected officials sign NDAs involving projects they could permanently affect local communities, the public is often shut off of conversations that directly impact their land, utilities, environment, taxes, traffic, water usage, and power infrastructures. Now, what's in?
I just think that's just, I don't know. I feel like they don't want us to know because they're doing something and they know that the community and the people of the city aren't going to like it, especially what's been coming out on the effects of having the data centers, especially here in the desert. But yeah, I mean, people want to argue, oh, well, they don't need to know this and that. And I'm like, no, we do need to know, but yes.
Well, yeah. And the thing about it, and I probably have told you in other conversations outside of our podcast, but you and I could use as much AI infrastructure as we wanted. I don't know, creating chat with ChatGPT, creating music, using the cloud, because the cloud is a part of the data center process. However, here's the interesting thing, and there's reports to this. I've got several that I've done for other podcasts and posts that I've put out on TikTok and quite a bit. I said, this is how many times why I need mental health days, too much research.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things is that even if all of us as individuals had some sort of infrastructure in our home, either turning on and off our lights or using it just to find information, or even where they have it as Google on our phones. We wouldn't need these kind of infrastructures. We wouldn't need these massive data centers. And I believe there's one going out in Utah that is supposed to be, I forget how many football fields long, several football fields.
Yeah, I heard about
And
that.
yeah, and it just shocks the heck out of me. And the fact that representatives of our community can be signing NDAs to not have it disclosed to the population is insane. And when you talk about that, there's several different things. Like, let's talk like public record laws, which basically, for anyone who doesn't know, they're laws that generally say government documents, contracts, emails, communications belong to the public. And it should be accessible unless specific exemptions apply. And of course, we just talked about how they're using said exemptions.
Mhm.
And then we also have what's called sunshine laws or transparency laws, designed to keep government activity open and visible to the public instead of hidden behind closed doors. And then, of course, there's one called open meeting laws, which require many government meetings to publicly announce and open to citizens to attend. Although these are exemptions called executive sessions, where officials can privately discuss things like lawsuits, land negotiation, personal issue, and economic development projects. And then there's also FOIA, which is requests, which stands for Freedom of the Information Act requests. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have heard of that one. They're formal requests that citizens or journalists can file to obtain government documents, communication, and records that may not otherwise be publicly released. And then last but not least is ethic laws, which are rules meant to prevent conflicts of interest. Okay, that's to me, you hear that? Conflicts of interest, corruption, or officials using public office for personal gain. Uh, you know, I'll be honest with you, I have such a conflict of interest because, like, I like and people can cast stones at me, but I like ChatGPT, okay? But it's a tool. You have to recheck everything. It's the same thing if you use Google or go to your phone. Even Facebook has AI. When people get on me and they'll say, "Well, you use AI or you do this." So do you. You have social media? Guess what? You have AI right on your phone.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, like, your phone uses that not in the way that they're looking at, but there is a lot of things that are using AI.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and then, well, okay, like for you and I, for what we do creatively for the podcast, and when we have guests, and we would use Canva for if we're doing a graphic. All that is switched to AI now too. Even our podcast carrier is outside of what we're using right now because we used to do these live, is
Yes.
now getting rid of their live feature because guess what? They want to bring in more AI. And so they're getting rid of the live feature so that they can use the funding toward that.
Which was disappointing because, that was such a unique and feature that we used for the podcast that people were able to come in and ask questions and engage with
Mhm.
us, and then them taking it away was very disappointing.
Right. I've since went into our profiles and taken out the live.
That was a tear,
But
wasn't it?
yeah, I know, it really was. So people don't realize all the little work you gotta do, that back button on the keyboard. Um, so now as this controversy really begins, critics, again, I'm one of them, would argue that some local governments rely too heavily on executive sessions and confidentiality agreements, creating situations where communities did not learn the full details of projects until negotiations had already gotten far along or were effectively finalized.
Mhm.
And I have to say, you and I have talked privately about the data centers coming in your area, and I thought, "Well, I haven't heard anything about it." And then when I started doing a deeper dive because I'm in, Licking County, And I found that Licking County, you're gonna love this, in all the places in Ohio has the most data
Really?
centers. Uh-huh.
You would
And they're
never think
pushing
that.
No, you wouldn't. And now they're pushing more into the farm areas because they're trying to take the property and because it's cheaper. And plus, with as much problems as farmers are having because of, well, we can we could put a whole lot on this. We can say tariffs and China not doing soybeans. I'm sure there's a lot bigger list here, price of gas for the machinery. So
Mhm.
you have farms that are having to sell portions of their land, and here you come, a data infrastructure coming in that is gonna buy that up. And now I have to say this, you're gonna love this. Now, admittedly, yeah, this is more about the NDA part of this, but there's a petition going around in the state of Ohio, and they have to have so many signatures. So we went ahead, my husband and I, Jeff, and printed off, and I said, "Hey, can you take it to work?" Would ask them if you're allowed. So Jeff went and spoke to 9 people, okay?
Mhm.
So 2 out of 9, okay? 2 out of 9 said they had already signed something, and the other 7, yeah, I think I right? Yeah, 7. Do my math there. The other 7 said, "Oh, I can't do that because that's gonna supply jobs." But let's break that down on what really jobs that's gonna be.
Yeah.
From what I've done, from the research I have looked into, you have temporary construction jobs, which may last, what, a couple months
Mhm.
max. And other that, you might have a couple security guards, and you might need some specialty people to run the infrastructure. But chances of those being Ohio related people or Arizona related people to do those jobs are, I would think, pretty slim. But I could be wrong, okay? There could be some specialty people, but it's not gonna be the bulk of what people think that's gonna supply you jobs. And it was surprising to me how many people told Jeff that they didn't want to sign anything like that because it would take away jobs. And their big thing was construction jobs. And the thing about it is, from what my research shows, that data centers will last decades. Now, let's define that. Decade is 10 years. Now you're adding an S to that. So you're looking at 10, 20, 30 years. And if you look at, was it Mississippi that AOC, did you watch it? I know it's been viral on TikTok. AOC brought it up in front of the house when they had the EPA, and she showed them bottled water from, and I think it was Meta's data center, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I think it was there, and they showed the non-drinkable water. And
Mhm.
it's, if you're a farmer and you think, "Oh, I have a well, that's not gonna affect," guess what? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's going to affect your wells. It's gonna affect your entire system. And it's
Right, and also
shocking to
too, like, how would the farm say the farm did sell part of its, you know, acres or land
Mhm.
to the data center, and then they build it next to the farm. How is the farm gonna be successful in growing anything? Yeah, you have a well, but that's gonna affect your well faster, I think, wouldn't it?
The thing about it, what I find interesting the most is how it's labeled. It'll say it's not when it comes into your community, they say technology industries or stuff like that. They're not telling you that it's a data center. They're
Mhm.
not telling you what it's doing and what it's not. Like, Microsoft is the one who bought in Hebron, Ohio, which is, I think, about 20-25 miles from me. And they're gonna be building over the summer. And they're gonna have, don't quote me on this 'cause it's been a while since I looked it up, but I think 6 or 7 buildings. And from what the electric company that's around me said, they sent out a massive email because they're getting a lot of hype. Because now that it's coming closer and people are seeing other states affected or other places in Ohio affected, now everybody's concerned after the fact, after it's already been sold. But of course, with NDAs, how would the majority of us know that it's coming to us, you know?
Yeah.
But even in that institution, I looked up, and they donated to marshlands and a few other stuff. But if you think about the water input that they're gonna use, what little donations or what little they're putting into the community, to me, it doesn't seem like it's gonna even out. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right, right. It's not a balanced, it doesn't seem very balanced to me. It very feels very one-sided.
Right. So, back when we talk about the NDAs for these data centers coming in, you have on the other hand the supporters, and this would be my guess. Okay, don't throw stones at me. But my guess would be those supporters are involved in the negotiations. They claim without confidentiality, companies would walk away from projects, land prices would skyrocket due to speculation, and economic deals would collapse before they would be completed. And this is my analogy on this because, yeah, their prices for the land might skyrocket if they felt that their competitors were coming in. But what happens to us and our property now that if you're built? I can tell you right now, our property value is going to all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
It's not because, for one, and even like I was saying, our electric company here, it they sent out a thing, and hold on a second, let me bring this. The Energy Co-op, and they sent out a thing, an email to everybody, and they were like, "We're getting a lot of thing because we're not used to this kind of spotlight." But they were saying they were going to build the infrastructure for the grid around them, around the data center. But already, just from what's already in the area, our electricity went up. See, normally our peak since my mother moved on the property went up to about $500. And this year it was over 700 for our electric.
That is insane.
Right?
Yeah.
Over $700. Yeah.
Wow. That's in this economy? Wow.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. Okay. So in my personal opinion, I feel like they're gonna go down the property values, but because who wants to live near these? And also, they're gonna put so much power onto the grid, so that's gonna limit how many more companies can even move in those areas t that would much access the electricity for these establishments they're using. Also, I can't remember the name of the area, maybe you may know. I know there was one that's a real travel district, and they told their community, the electric company in their area, said they could no longer support them because they were gonna be all toward the data centers.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that. That is messed up.
Right? And it's one of those tourist areas. I'd have to look it back up. I should have made better notes. So, but there's a very important nuance people should understand. Most of the time, NDA themselves are not illegal. But I don't know, as being in the community, it's very hard for me to think that it's ethical. And this is where, yeah, right? And this is where I personally would say it should be. It should be illegal. It should be, in my opinion, it solely should be. You're representative of a community. Why you'd be able to sign an NDA for these things that are going to impact the community greatly, again, for decades is just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. So, but there's just for everyone to know, there are legal fights, usually centers around whether officials violated public laws, sunshine laws, ethic laws, open meeting laws while negotiating these deals. But again, we all know how long court systems go out, and this kind of tells you where my opinions go. You never know if the Supreme Court's going to back any of those decisions or overturn them when it gets closer to
Oh, for sure.
it. That's a whole other podcast right there.
It really is.
Okay, so yes, absolutely, there have been legal challenges and public pushback involving secrecy and developed negotiations. From my home state, Ohio, organizations and journalists have challenged secrecy involving economic development projects, taxes, Jobs Ohio agreements, arguing that too much information was withheld from public. Arizona, your state, Laura, publicly controversy has surrounded semiconductor expansion, water usage concerns, and closed door negotiations tied to large industrial and technology projects. Now, across the country, courts have sometimes ruled that certain records must eventually be released. Even if officials originally claimed confidentiality, in other situations, courts have sided with governments or corporations when exemptions legally apply. So tonight, the real question, and I hate to, we're almost coming to a close, guys, but Laura and I are asking is at what point does economic confidentiality cross the line into communities being shut off of decisions that may permanently reshape places where we live? Today's sources come from Ohio Sunshine Law's Manual, Arizona Open Meeting Law Handbook, FOIA Overview, Open Secrets Law Briefing Overview, Cleveland.com Jobs Ohio Coverage, Arizona Miro Technology Expansion Coverage. Thank you for listening. Until next time, bye-bye for now.